Good morning, Stewart's Chapel. The brother Don Pierson here in Don Counts. We're at the Harris's farm. I hope that you enjoyed worshiping yesterday. This is Monday's devotion. Again, I'm looking forward to Sunday, already preparing for Sunday, the coming Sunday. Today we're continuing our study or look at men and women who ignored God's boundaries. Today we're in the third John. The third letter of John, right before Jude and right before you go into Revelation. A very short book with only one chapter, 14 verses. We're reading in verse 9. I wrote to the church, but, I circle that, underline it. You can tell that John's about to share with us an individual. Whenever he says, I wrote to the church, but, he's letting us know that somebody crossed a boundary. Well, this person, he says, but Diotrephes, who loves to have the preeminence, who loves to be first among everyone, who loves to be seen, who loves to have the power, who loves to make the last call, who loves to make the decisions, he does not receive us. He didn't receive us, which meant he probably didn't receive their letter. He didn't receive John. Can you imagine? John is of age at this time. He's one of the last apostles still alive. He's been a man of God. He walked with Jesus. He's the disciple that the word tells us that Jesus loved. Can you imagine? You can't get any more direct witness than John. And yet, Diotrephes, he don't even bow to the one and only, at the time, eyewitness of who Jesus is. It says, therefore if I come, John's saying, if I come, I will call to mind his deeds, which he does. Prating about, in other words, just strutting about as though he was in charge of everything. I just heard a turkey gobble a little while ago. It's sort of like a turkey in his own field is strutting his own strutting. Diotrephes, he is convinced that church, that group of people, he's the ruler, he's the head, and he's just strutting his stuff against John with malicious words. In other words, he has no bridle on his tongue. There's nothing kind about this man. And not content with that, he himself does not receive the brethren, and he forbids those who wish to putting those out of the church. Beloved, John goes, do not imitate what is evil. In other words, John says, that's evil. Do not be like that. But what is good? He who does good is of God, but he who does evil has not even seen God. Diotrephes, not a lot in Scripture about him, and that's probably good. I got a feeling that right now Diotrephes is in a place that he had no intention of ever going. I got a feeling that Diotrephes is where we talk about where the worm never dies and the fire never stops, a place of torment. I got a feeling that he had no idea where he was going to end up. You see, there are all kinds of people that cross boundaries. Some are like Diotrephes. They are in positions of power among God's people. This was not a governor. This was not a ruler. This is not a king. This is a man in one local place of worship, one local place of people called the church. One man. And he is so arrogant, so bold, that he rejects those that Jesus Christ himself had chosen. And anyone who would welcome them, well, he just casts them aside. I don't know how much damage Diotrephes did, but in my years of ministry, I've met a few Diotrephes, and they do a lot of damage. Sometimes they scar the weak believers, so much so that they never gather again. They become distrusting. Sometimes when we cross boundaries, we don't even know it. I got a feeling Diotrephes thought and believed that he was in full authority and that there was nothing wrong with what he was doing. He would not receive an encouragement or a rebuke. He would not receive any of the one another's from anyone. He was above that. He had set himself up as Lord. He had crossed a boundary. Unfortunately, those individuals do exist. They worship with us. Sometimes they are in places of leadership. Sometimes they look like me. Sometimes they're pastors. My brothers and sisters, if you're ever hurt by a Diotrephes, don't allow them to turn your heart away from the Lord. Seek Him even more. Not all churches have Diotrephes. You need to know that. Some do. They do a lot of damage because they ignore God's boundaries. I guess the message today is not so much about you doing this, but I would warn you not to do this. But more like John. You see, John's message is more to those that Diotrephes has hurt. He's given up on Diotrephes. He's turned his attention to those that Diotrephes has hurt. And I turn my attention to you. Regardless of what evil has been done to you, you do good. Do not cross the boundary for any reason to do evil, even if evil's been done to you. Love you, Stewart's Chapel.